No.
We're going to start the Admin and Finance Committee meeting, and we have a roll call, please.
Dr. Beebe?
Here.
Dr. Beebe present. Ms. Bophy?
I'm still here.
Ms. Bophy's present. Ms. Bradford? Ms. Bradford's present. Mr. Garvey?
I'm still here
Mr.
too.
Garvey's present. Mr. Gio? Mr. Gio's present. Ms. Hill? Ms. Hill's present. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Lee is present. Dr. Moranti?
Present.
Dr. Moranti is present. Mr. Orange Jones? Mr. Orange Jones is not present. Mr. Romer? Mr. Romer is present. Smith? Here. Ms. Smith is present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item, please.
The consent agenda is ready for approval. We'll be adding items 5.1, 5.3, 7.1, 7.2, and 8.2, and we will be pulling item 2.1 due to comments.
You'll have a motion to that effect, please.
So moved.
Ms. Smith, a second. Ms. Bradford. Does the board want to discuss these items before we vote? Any objection to that motion?
Is 4.1 on consent? No.
It is not. Any objection to the consent agenda motion? Motion carries. Next item.
On page 1, item 2.1, consideration of LD contracts of $50,000 and under, approved by the State Superintendent of Education. The recommendation is to receive.
Do we have a motion? Dr. Moranti, a second. Bradford. Any comments from the board before we go to public comment? Ms. Hill?
Well, my concern in regards to the contract on $50,000, I know the board, when majority of the board approved, they give Superintendent Whitengeld authority to approve contracts on $50,000. However, what I'm seeing throughout my duration on the board is that we're seeing repeated vendors coming for approval for $50,000 in different templates. So my concern is, why are we not, Superintendent White, just giving us, okay, for example, there's a vendor that we know within a year that we're gonna grant $150,000, why are you just gonna come to the board and just say, hey, well, this is a vendor we're gonna give them $150,000 instead of coming to every board meeting with the same vendor with $50,000.
Which vendors are you referring
I'm
to?
from that Rocky, the new teacher project. I've seen numerous times where we have had contracts under $50,000.
I don't believe that's true. I don't believe we.
It's true. I look back at my documentation. That's why I asked that question, because for me as a board member, it's like, well, if we know that we want to give these vendors $50,000, and every quarter we see them coming, or every quarter we see them coming for $50,000, just tell us, well, for the new teacher project, we're going to offer them $500,000 within a year.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a suggestion? If Ms. Hill, if you could forward to me the contracts with the new teacher project for under $50,000, as you suggest that exist, I will then forward a written explanation to the board as to how that has happened, if it has happened. If you could just forward to me, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other board comments before public comment? Ms. Barrios?
Barrios, retired teacher from St. County. I take the time to question some of these or ask questions about them because there's so little information given to the public, and this is a public information forum, so I have several questions. One is the grant or the contract $30,000 to a company called BulletproofOnline.com for proofreading services for the new curriculum documents that are being prepared. I looked up the company, and if I hadn't had the name, it never would have appeared. You just Google proofreading services or any of that, it never shows up. There's no admin personnel listed, no qualifications for anybody that works for them. nothing except basic information, like they charge $75 an hour, which for this grant equals 400 hours. I also question a company that would say that they give, quote, pathological attention to detail, when every definition of pathological connotes something extreme or negative. That's kind of weird that they're going to edit. And why do we need to go outside of the expertise available in Louisiana for simple proofreading services? So I question that. And how we came upon this Bulletproof Online as the company to award this contract to. Also, again, on the contract for the research on value added, or Compass, to Mr. Harris, which I know you approved the last time. So now we know it's $50,000. And again, I question that when peer review is typically free and therefore unbiased, and I gave you some companies or organizations that could do that for you, but instead we're paying $50,000. Also on the Save the Children contract, I'm just wondering where those services are going to be provided. The after-school literacy services, because it doesn't say, and I think typically it tells where those services are going to be provided.
Thank you for your comment.
I'm not going to get any answers. So when I call the Department of Ed, I can't get anybody on the phone. Nobody will return my calls.
I will answer. The Save the Children contract will primarily be located in St. Martin Parish at the St. Martin Parish Early Learning Center. There will also be some activities in Washington Parish. So that will benefit St. Martin Parish.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item?
Yes, I do.
Yes, Ms. Smith.
Could we get a little bit of clarification also on if Bulletproof is doing the proofreading, did we go outside to have a contract with someone to write the curriculum guide, and who's that, and just a little explanation on that?
Sure. The curriculum guides, as you know, are several hundred pages each for each grade band, ELA and math. So you're talking about thousands of pages. Proofreading thousands of pages of material to make sure that not only every word, but every piece of punctuation, every piece of syntax and diction is accurate, as well as the formatting for the document is something that any publisher does. And obviously we're talking about multiple thousands of pages here, so incremental cents per dollar or per page. In terms of the contracts, no, we do not have large contract. We don't have contracts with a vendor, for example, to help us write curriculum. We do pay teachers stipends to help us write the guidebook, but we do not pay a vendor money. It's developed in-house, although there are some teachers that are provided stipends to work on curriculum issues with us.
So that's actually teachers in Louisiana that are helping develop.
Yes, yeah.
Any further discussion on this item? Any objection to the motion?
I'd like to recuse myself.
Dr. Beebe recuses.
Recuse.
Any objection otherwise? Motion carries. Next item.
On page 16, item 4.1, consideration of federal state grants and allocations to LEAs, Type 2 charters, Type 5 charters, approved non-public schools and community-based organizations. The recommendation is to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve? Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Romer and Ms. Bofi has seconded. Superintendent, if you'd like to comment at the beginning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, by approving this item, you will be approving more than $80 million in allocations directly to school systems. So these are items that go directly to school systems for varying purposes, and I'd like to walk through some of them with you now. First of all, I am thrilled to report that our Jumpstart initiative, which I think, given some of the comments at our meetings, people's greatest concern was timing and the speed of implementation. Our mantra has been, as you know, join if you wish, stay behind if you wish. You can do what you want to do there. 3/4 of districts have signed up for Jumpstart yesterday. My colleagues, Larry Alexander and Dave Lefkowitz, convened a meeting in Northwest Louisiana with 50 leaders of higher education, industry, and school systems yesterday. These grants will go to 9 such teams, not just Northwest Louisiana, but as we said here today, the Capital Region, our river parishes, our New Orleans area, our Southwest, Northeast, and the Delta. We are statewide, and these grants will go to them to help them get started with Jumpstart Career Education work. $3 million is going to students with disabilities through IDEA. This is an increase of $350,000 to regional assistive technology centers, for example, which I know the board has expressed a lot of support for. So we are thrilled to provide those grants. Also, we're doubling the amount of professional development dollars for such students. Finally, our advanced placement program, which you know, the U.S. Department of Education report recently listed Louisiana as the top progress state in the country in terms of kids participating in AP. Also the top progress state in the country in terms of number of AP tests passed. Of any state in America, we're number 1 in both of those areas. That's in great part due to your generosity and foresight in making these grants available. $800,000 will pay for teacher training and AP test fees for next year for low-income kids, which is great. Dr. Beebe asked questions about Believe and Prepare, which I'm certainly happy to discuss. $840,000 will go directly to LEAs to begin preparing teachers who are teacher candidates for their work as full-time professionals, but preparing them in the classroom. These are partnerships that exist with institutions of higher education and other providers whereby school systems will actually partner with such institutions to provide credit for students in the classroom, practitioner-based work, and I'm happy to talk more about that. I'm assuming I'll have some questions on that. There are other grants involved, including math and science teacher training in many of our parishes to the tune of nearly $3 million, and the bulk of this is also LA4 funding for early childhood as well. So from early childhood to AP to career education to special education, this covers a wide range of important priorities for the agency. It's more than $80 million in allocations in front of you to approve. The important thing to note is all of it is money going to school systems. These are direct allocations to LEAs. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Superintendent, for your comments. Ms. Buckley?
Superintendent, I see that the breakdown for the districts is behind the backup. On page 29, I see the list of the different school systems that will receive the money for supporting the inclusive practices. Can you talk to me about how these allocations were determined and how we go about awarding some districts or not others and that kind of process?
I don't have the process for these grants off the top of my head. I'm sorry?
Early childhood.
Oh, I'm sorry. These are specifically yes. Sorry, this is the round 2 early childhood pilots. Yes, that's right. This is so these systems are ones that previously received the early childhood pilot funds. These are year 2 early childhood cohorts, and so the amount of funding was slightly cut in the aggregate. But basically, we said if you agree to commit to continuing the terms of the pilot, you can continue to receive your funds. Now, it's worth saying that we're bringing on a year 1 cohort as well. Those have already been approved. Those allocations have already been approved. And so these 16 are added to the last 16, or the previous 16, for a total of 32 districts statewide.
So it's the same concept as Jumpstart. Those who are interested in participating have certain opportunities that come along with that participation and that commitment. Correct.
And this year, every single application for a pilot was met.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Garvin?
Yes, back to early childhood issues. One of the early childhood grants is for $848,000, and the source is listed as federal funds. Can you get more specific and tell me which part of federal funds that's coming from? It's on page 18, number 2.
Yes. This is, and it doesn't list the funding stream, Bridget, specifically. Can you help me with this? Because I believe that the early childhood pilot is a set of mixed funds, some federal, some state.
Mr. Gurney, which one exactly are you?
On page 18, number 2. 848
Number two, that's what Ms. Bogey was just asking about. That's IDEA funding
IDEA.
for inclusive practices within our early childhood pilots.
Thank you very much.
Any further comments from the board? Mr. Rowan?
I appreciate the presentation. I have a question on the AP exam. I appreciate this effort, but I want to make sure I'm clear. Right now, we really only committed to paying this fee for new tests, for new AP courses. Is that correct?
We will pay the test fee for all low-income kids. So any kid who's receiving a free reduced lunch on location receives a free AP test. In addition, if you are starting a new course in your school, then you get for all kids.
Good. I appreciate it.
Mr. Garvin?
As a follow-up to that, if you're starting a new course, then it's only in the first year of that course that we pay for the test, and second year we don't?
Correct. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Dr. Booty?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, Superintendent White addressed the new care grant. The way the little summary statement here says that the program promotes preparation programs that effectively prepare teachers and leaders for success with today's students. Now, when I think of a preparation program, I think of those programs that prepare teachers in the way of alternative programs. So as a school district, what is the objectives of the district? Are they just going to provide mentoring, or will they offer endorsements? And that is the question of concern for me, because again, going back to the last meeting, we discussed for a long period of time that these individuals, if approved, if the policy were approved, they would have the autonomy to issue endorsements. But as I heard you earlier, you said that this does not involve the Believe and Prepare grant.
The Believe and Prepare grant, and I think you're going to hear us talk more about preparation as the months go on, is a pilot. And the pilot is meant to allow higher education institutions or alternative providers to partner with school systems. Those school systems, working with the provider, will develop courses of study for prospective teachers, teacher candidates, who then will spend time in the classroom being mentored and coached and receive credit toward their certification for that practice. It actually doesn't require policy change of us. It requires that the higher education institution or the certifying provider change the way that it may grant credit toward the degree. But that's a decision by those providers.
So going back to the policy proposals last month, it was my understanding that the university would not be the provider. The school district was asking or seeking permission via policy to be the entity to provide the endorsement. So you're saying this is not the case?
Correct.
Ms. Hill?
Yes, in regards to the early learning for students for inclusive practice, how did we identify the recipients? Did they have to apply for this particular grant? Or what was the process?
The recipients are the previous recipients of the Early Childhood Network pilots. They're the organizations that are already involved. So these are the year 2 participants. In terms of wanting to participate in year 1, you as a board have already made those allocations at the last meeting. Anyone can apply, and of all of those who applied, 100% were funded. So effectively, anyone who asked to be part of an Early Childhood Network pilot promoting inclusive practices was funded this year.
Okay, and so this is round 2.
Yes, ma'am.
These individuals are currently in the pilot program.
These school systems are in the pilot. Yeah.
Right, and so they apply for it. Now, do we open it up to other districts as well?
We did. You have already made those allocations at the last meeting. The first year one, the second round, those groups have already approved, and everybody who asked for it got funding.
Any further discussion?
Just clarification, is this all flow-through money from the federal, there's no state match, or is it all federal dollars?
This is not all federal, this is not all federal dollars. Not everything you're seeing in front of you today is federal dollars. There are some that are mixed. For example, there are 8G funds involved in the advanced placement category, for example. But everything you see here today is interagency transfer, is flow-through dollars, be it federal or be it state. It is going directly to the school systems. It is not spent here at the department.
Ms. Smith, just for clarification, on the summaries that they have, they some of them list the detail of the funding source.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Any objection to the motion?
I'd like to recuse.
Dr. Beebe recuses himself. No other objection. Motion carries. Next item.
On page 48, item 4.2, consideration of LDE contracts and leases of $50,000 and over. The recommendation is to approve.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Bradford, second, Ms. Bothy. We do have some comments for us. Ms. Bothy seconded it.
Bradford.
Ms. Bradford on the motion. I think what I'll do is go to public comment first on these. And Ms. Berrios.
Lee Berrios, retired teacher, St. Tammany. Again, I'm going to be up here every time there is, and it seems to be quite frequently, a Teach for America grant. There's one, again, for $1 million. It says to recruit and place approximately 520 state and federally qualified teachers in Louisiana public schools. Now, we probably know that they're considered qualified because of an extension of a year by Congress to an amendment at the last minute to the congressional budget bill that extended the ability for Teach for America instructors to be considered highly qualified. However, they're not certified. Several questions. How many Louisiana teachers and new teacher graduates who are certified are being invited to apply for these under-resourced schools? How many of them are not able to get jobs that they might have wanted? Is the department actively recruiting certified teachers for any of these jobs? It's also funded by state money. And with all of the federal money that comes for under-resourced schools, I'm just wondering why federal grants aren't ever used, or those types of money, to fund these Teach for America recruitment. I also want to point out to the public, in case you don't know, that this doesn't pay their salaries. It's strictly sort of a finder's fee for these teachers. I think it's time also, I know Dr. Noel did a very quick, I think it took him 3 weeks to do a comparative study of what he called the effectiveness of Teach for America teachers to first and second year and even experienced certified teachers, but I think it's time that we had a serious study and analysis done comparing the effectiveness of these non-certified instructors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berrios. Mr. Tipton, we have 3 Teach for America cards. I'm going to ask the 3 to come up. We have some other comments. If you come up now, Michael Tipton, Ebenezer Jesse, and Daniel Meekins. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Tipton.
Well, good morning. Good morning. My name is Michael Tipton. I'm the Executive Director of Teach for America. I've had the opportunity to meet most of you, but it's a pleasure to get to see a number of folks in person. Clearly, we are here in support of the contract between the Louisiana Department of Education and Teach for America. We've had a long-term partnership here in Louisiana. We've been placing teachers in the state since 1990 in some of the highest needs schools throughout our state. There are a number of letters of support that we brought forward. I don't know whether that's the numbers seen those yet, but they cover the state in terms of schools and districts that are partners with Teach for America. Specifically, there are letters from Hollis Milton in West Louisiana. Patrice Pujol just sent an email sending her apologies for not being here. She had an emergency meeting, but she is in big support, and you'll get to hear from one of our superintendent partners here shortly. Just in terms of quick data, we have 500 plus teachers serving in high-need schools throughout the state, and more than 1,000 Teach for America alumni who are working throughout Louisiana. 70% of those people work day-to-day in school buildings. They are teachers, they are deans of students, they are curriculum coaches who continue having a positive impact. Just for quick points of clarification, our folks are highly qualified under No Child Left Behind and certified under the state's law. They are in the process of pursuing alternative certification, and any and all alternative certification candidates, we get the same alternative certificate that any and all other alternative candidates get. I would be absolutely happy to answer questions about the work of Teach for America, but more specifically, I think our teachers, our partners, and others who are here to support will say that much better than I can, so I'll refer to that.
Thank you, Mr. Tipton.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning. Morning. My name is Ebenezer Jesse, and I teach 6th grade math at Glen Oaks Middle in the proud community of North Baton Rouge. I'd like to start off this morning with an account of an exchange between one of my most challenging students and I a few months back. It was during independent practice, a time when I usually put on quiet country music while the young scholars complete their assignments. The student looked up at me and said the following: "Say, Mr. G, what black person you know reads books that big," pointing to the one on my desk, "and listens to country music?" While taken aback internally, I maintained a level of equanimity externally. I responded, "Well, Devon, I guess you're looking at one, huh?" "Nah, man, Mr. G, you just a white man trapped in a black man's body." I was visibly incredulous, noticeably affected by the last statement. Fast forward a few months, not only to form one of my best students in math class, he and several of his peers have actually come to enjoy the little Zach Brown button during independent practice. The story I just told you is indicative of the kind of impact Teach for America Corps members are having all over South Louisiana in our efforts to be part and parcel of the solution to help close the achievement gap between students we serve and their peers. Teach for America sets out to serve students from traditionally underserved communities in high-need areas who consistently underperform in the classroom. Through its rigorous summer institute training, community partnerships, and commitment to improving student outcomes, Teach for America has been absolutely instrumental and essential in my development as a first-year teacher and leader for my students. If we gathered here in this room this morning take seriously the premise that the essential function of leadership is to bring about positive change, then Teach for America offers Louisiana a wonderful opportunity for progress in the realm of education. Had it not been for Teach for America, I never would have had the opportunity to leave my home state of New Jersey to come experience and be a part of the rich culture and diversity within Louisiana in the larger context of the Deep South. The relationship between my students and I this year has been a reciprocally beneficial one. While they have learned to become more fastidious in their mathematical reasoning and practices, I have in turn learned to operate with a more open heart and mind in a genuine effort to seek to understand others on their own terms first, before attempting to change them. I sincerely hope that you continue to support the initiative to maintain TFA's presence all over South Louisiana. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jesse. Mr. Meekins.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say thanks for having me on one. It's nice to be in front of you guys, student that and Teach for America. Daniel Meekins, I teach 5th grade special education inclusion at Gonzales Primary of Ascension Parish. And I joined Teach for America because I was blessed enough to have several leaders and role models throughout my life to kind of guide me on the correct track. And I understand that without those leaders, I would not be sitting before this. And Teach for America grants me the opportunity to return that favor to a community that I also come from. When I look at my students, I see myself, I see family members, I see close friends of mine, and I take it as an obligation to serve that community each and every day. Teach for America provides me with development. They push me through my 2 years that I've been in the program to continuously push for academic excellence inside the classroom, but also to build relationships inside the classroom that I've now seen ascend from the classroom to the community and throughout the entire package. but that's something that I'm humbly drawn to be a part of. Like I said, I'm finishing my second year right now as a core member, but the experiences I've seen as a special education advocate for my students who come to me with several labels on top of the labels that they've already been handed to, I just take it as a personal responsibility to be a living example of how they can overcome that type of adversity and be role models in their own community and make better for themselves and their families moving forward. And that's why I'm pursuing another third year, remaining in the classroom here in South Louisiana. And I plan on dedicating the remainder of my life to education so that these students will always, through all walks of life, have someone to refer to. And Teach for America really provides me the opportunity to do that consistently. I've been supported in any initiative that I've brought to the table thus far. And I agree with Ebenezer. I just fully agree that this should be supported throughout.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Beacon. Appreciate your comments. We'll call up Nicole Grimes, Dwayne Lamone, and Stephanie DeSalle.
Mr. LeBoy.
Lamone, I'm sorry. Thank you.
My name is Dwayne LeBoy, Superintendent of Schools in Bowles Parish. I chose this morning to drive here. I chose this morning to drive up to speak on behalf of Teach for America and the relationship that we've had in Bowles Parish with our Teach for America cadets. We have approximately 6,000 students, and that's why I'm here today. 84% are of low socioeconomic status. And one of the most challenging jobs the superintendent has across the state is finding teachers and effective teachers and growing these teachers to place in front of every student. It's been quite challenging the last few years. We've made a decision to partner with Teach for America to fill these voids. We go to every job fair in the state of Louisiana. We hire alternative certification teachers. We bring back retired teachers. And still we have approximately 5 to 10% of gaps and voids in our teacher system. We use these teachers. They're very critical, very important to our district. And I would ask that you continue to partner with Teach for America until we can fill all of these voids. I want you to know, though, that these teachers do more than just enter a classroom and teach. They do everything every other teacher that we ask in our system does. And actually, they do it they're great at it. And we've had great relationships. And we want to continue that relationship. Even with funding, we had to make a decision to spend more money for each of these teachers, although they're still less than a 25-year experienced teacher for our district. We made a decision. In spite of funding, it's more important to place teachers in front of classrooms, effective teachers. And I'd ask that you continue this partnership.
Thank you, Superintendent Lamone. Appreciate you being here.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Grimes. I'm the principal of Laurie Middle School in Ascension Parish. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all this morning. We are the only middle school in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. We are one of the schools in the district's turnaround zone. So these are the schools that are below a 90% score. And basically, we also are a TAP school, Teacher Advancement Program. Our school students are over 95% free and reduced lunch, and we have a very low socioeconomic status. When actively recruiting teachers to work and serve with the youth of this population, we look for people who are committed, confident team players, smart, positive people, and people that add value to the lives of our students, not just academically, but also socially and behaviorally. We want people that want to be there. We currently have 6 Teach for America core members working in our school, Laurie Middle School. The value of these 6 individuals is priceless. When we talk about commitment, we talk about going the extra mile in the field, inclusive of the community and the school, dedicated to the work, as we said before, of growing kids and being advocates for our kids. These are people that come back to school and want to meet with me about innovative new strategies that they may have learned from visiting another school, from going to a weekend TFA all-day session when other people are doing other things, and people that actually research strategies to work with our students. Also, when we talk about people that are positive, these are people that are leaders of initiatives on our campus, such as our Positive Behavior and Interventions and Support PBIS team, our athletic teams, our behavior coaches. These are people that are willing to meet the needs and work with each and every child on our campus. Again, when we talk about attitudes, not just with students, but also with their colleagues. These are team players willing and ready to collaborate in our weekly TAP cluster meetings, in our professional learning communities. They are willing to bring in guest speakers from across the nation, and most importantly, they're willing to collaborate with our parents and other stakeholders to ensure that every child is successful. When we talk about adding value, we talk about the work that's done in the classroom with these Teach for America teachers. Also, they do add value, not only in the academic realm, as I said before, socially and behaviorally to our students, because we know that students in a low socioeconomic background or community need more motivation. They need more support. They need that good job. So these teachers are dedicated to providing our students with adding value and with that positivity. The diversity that they bring to our kids is also priceless. Being in a city like Donaldsonville, there are some students that have never even crossed the bridge, the Sunshine Bridge. There are some students that have never been to Southern University, New Orleans, Louisiana State University, etc. So these teachers bring in a background knowledge that is already one that can be applicable to our kids. So is that the time?
Yeah, if you go ahead and wrap
Okay.
up.
So basically, I have so much to say, and I'm so excited about our Teach for America teachers. Okay, so thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and sharing that with us, Ms. Cassell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Cable, like you, has long focused a lot of its efforts on accountability and policy, public awareness and advocacy, specifically on low-performing schools and students, especially for those that are located in poor rural areas and inner-city schools. And based on our long-term research and experiences, we continue to support very critical strategies that focus on turning these schools around and providing higher academic benefits to its students. These strategies include everything from high-quality pre-K to strong school leadership to preventing dropouts to Teach for America. I recently had the pleasure to attend an educational activity in a small town in a rural parish near here, where the Teach for America program was highlighted. The collegial atmosphere and obvious dedication to effective instruction and high expectations for the kids by the teachers was further enhanced by the involvement of parents, local officials, and the local district staff who were there. It was very uplifting to be involved at this particular school. Finally, I would only say that in Louisiana, given so many of our poor outcomes for so many kids, we need all the tools in the toolbox. This is one very strong tool that can help our students. I hope that we would stay with it and continue allowing them to do so much for our children. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Cassell, for being here. Appreciate your comments.
I have a question for the superintendent, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
How many TFA teachers did you say you have?
We currently have 15 employed with us now, and we're bringing in 10 more next year.
And those 15 and those 10, did the Department of Education require you to hire those 10?
Absolutely not. That's a contract that we negotiated and entered with TFA ourselves.
You made that decision?
Absolutely.
The department didn't tell you to?
That's correct.
Okay, did the department tell you that you could not allow regular routed teachers to apply for these jobs?
Absolutely not.
So, well, did you allow regular teachers to apply for these jobs?
And again, these are critical shortage areas, and we've exhausted all of the applicants that we currently have for our system.
Okay, and I get the impression from one of the earlier speakers that regular routed teachers that go through a Department of Education at a university for a degree don't like the TFA teachers. Is that your experience? Are they mad at them because they've stolen jobs?
I haven't had that experience involved.
Okay.
We actively go through all of the job fairs across the state of Louisiana. We recruit against other states. Texas, they're always there. We do everything we can to attract graduates from our local colleges. We also have employ teachers from our alternative certification programs. We bring in retirees that are wanting to return to work, want to do the work that's at hand. We still have these critical shortages.
And the other TFA teachers around the state, as far as you know, is the department required superintendents to hire those teachers?
I wouldn't think so. Certainly not in Falls Parish.
Well, thanks for clearing some of that up. I wanted to hit a couple of other issues, and I hesitate to ask you about your experience because I don't have the stats on that, but I've heard what I think are inaccurate claims, inaccurate stats on these TFA teachers, and I wanted to give the board members the latest information that I've seen. There's claims that these teachers are here for 2 years and then are gone. And the latest stats that I have show that for 2 years, let's just start with the 2 years, 90% of the TFA teachers stay for 2 years. Regular routed teachers, the statistic is 86%, 4 percentage points lower. And for teachers who are teaching at low-income schools, which typically is a harder job and typically the type of positions that TFA teachers take, the statistic is 83%. Now that's not to disparage the regular teachers because I know that this is a hard job, but I hate it when I hear that these teachers leave earlier than regular teachers. Well, that's just not what the statistics show. Well, let's go beyond the 2 years. Let's go to 3 years because 2 years and they're gone is what I keep hearing. The 2007 information shows that 54.3% of regularly routed teachers are still in the classroom or in the school as principals or administration. But for the TFA teachers, it is 61.5%, and that comes from 2011 information. So there's a couple of years of difference in there, but do you have any reason to doubt these statistics?
No, I don't have reason to doubt the statistics. I haven't calculated them for Falls Parish. We have had some Teach for America cadets stay after 2 years, and certainly we would like to have kept more. But they have stayed, and of course, we've had first-year teachers from our traditional college systems not stay after 1 or 2 years. We're also a part of a CART residency program, and we've had some difficulty in retaining teachers in a rural district like Falls Parish. And it's a decision that we had to make. And it's one that I felt was worthy of making because I have a tremendous responsibility of placing teachers in children.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Beebe, you have a question for the superintendent? Okay. Well, yeah. Well, while he's here, I just wanted to get any questions, and then we can go to your comments. Is that okay? Ms. Hill, you have a question for the superintendent?
Yes. Thank you for being here. Good morning. I think was listening to Mr. Rodney's comments and listening to your presentation as well. One of the things that we're finding is that when you look at the different geographical areas, the needs are different.
Sure.
So maybe in the rural areas like Aurora, which I represent the area, the shortage of certified teachers may be much less than you're able to find certified teachers, but you have to go out to school and try to recruit TFA teachers. But when you look across the board throughout the state, for example, in New Orleans, someone will say something different in regards to the TFA, in regards to teachers that are certified that can't find jobs, etc. But I guess my question to you, I know you said you participated in job fairs, career fairs, you go to different universities. What do you think is the hindrance from certified teachers coming into your district?
Obviously when I came into the district as a superintendent just 7 years ago, the first thing I did was analyze our workforce. I think that was very important. We certainly had an aging workforce, and we had a lot of teachers, probably about 25%, that were within 5 years of retiring. I just don't think that we've been able to keep up with replenishing our teachers. I've got 3 children myself, and they're all college graduates, one of which is a teacher. I don't have the answer. I don't think there's a silver bullet out there. I just think the state has finding qualified, certified teachers is extremely important for the education in this state. And I think anything that BESE does or can do to put more certified teachers in our classrooms is certainly a worthwhile project. And whatever that would be. I also teach at a university. I teach graduate level course. I know that they're not there right now. I can't tell you exactly why. Funding has always been an issue with our district. We offer incentive pay. We offer rewards for performance effectiveness. And it's still quite a challenge. And I realize we're in a rural area. And Louisiana is littered with rural districts like ours.
Okay, thank you so much for you.
I have a question.
Superintendent, we have a few more questions for you.
Sorry, make your trip worthwhile.
Sure.
Thank you. To be clear, though, you're using MFP dollars to basically subsidize Teach for America staff, not teachers, but staff.
That is correct. We pay the teachers their salary,
right?
And we also subsidize TFA for the training that they provide.
And so that's a choice that you make at the local district, or is that?
That's a choice that we make in Evolves Parish. We're one of the, if not the lowest funded. We're $2,000 less than the MFP area.
Do you know if that's a requirement for all school districts that have Teach for America, that they subsidize through their MFP funds?
I do believe, unless the contract I've been signing is different across other districts, but we have an agreement that we do pay an additional stipend to TFA for the support that they provide.
And so we've got basically what we're looking at today, and this is not your issue necessarily because you're choosing to do that, but we basically are going to be voting on $1 million contract that subsidizes Teach for America staff, not students. I have no problem at all with Teach for America. I do have some concerns about we're subsidizing it from our state budget in this contract, and then we're subsidizing it again at the local level through MFP dollars.
May I make just a brief correction before Superintendent Lemoyne speaks? The legislature has appropriated funds for this purpose. You are not approving an appropriation. You're approving a contract. So effectively, the legislature has earmarked funds in its budget as of July 1, 2013. You are responding to that by establishing a contract with Teach for America for the expenditure of such purposes.
And that contract began, I noticed there was testimony that we've had Teach for America since the 90s, but we only had the $1 million contract starting when?
2000. So this is the 15th year.
But we didn't have a contract for $1 million prior to 2001.
I don't know what year the $1 million contract started. Perhaps Mr. Tipton can inform. But it is, to be fair, there is not another purpose for which such dollars could be spent because the legislature placed them in the budget to be spent as such.
Mr. Chairman, are we doing questions now, or are we waiting until after our public speakers?
Well, I wanted to, while the superintendent was here, I want to have questions for the superintendent. We're having questions while the superintendent's here out of personal privilege.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Mr. Lee, did you have a question for the superintendent?
I think it's been clarified.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about subsidies and subsidization for a second. Did you, Superintendent, say that you work at a university?
I do teach a graduate level.
Okay. So you're familiar with universities and their financing, I guess that would be fair to say?
That wouldn't be fair to say.
Do you know whether or not the legislature appropriates money to help run state universities?
The university that I teach for is a private university. I wouldn't want to get into a discussion about appropriations or subsidies for the stipend, for whatever.
So you wouldn't know if the tuition that a potential teacher pays at a state university covers the full budget of that university?
I'm certain that tuition does not cover the full budget.
Okay, so you do know some.
Yes.
about that. And the part that it doesn't cover, who pays for that? Does that come from the legislature?
I'm sure some does.
So the legislature is subsidizing the education of teachers or potential teachers that go through regular state universities.
I'm sure.
Okay. Do you know what percentage that subsidy is? Is it half of the cost?
Mr. Garvey, if we could wrap this up.
Okay. My understanding is that it's roughly half the cost, and that regular teachers is roughly $20,000, and that in this case we're spending $2,000 or $2,000. It is. Saves the state potentially $18,000 per position. I just want to put that on the record. Those are rough numbers, not exact, but they're in the ballpark, I understand it.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Garvey. I'm going to go ahead and call the next group up. Ms. Nealon, Mr. Cleveland, is it Ms. LeBlanc? Is that Antoine LeBlanc? Mr.? Okay, sorry about that. And I'm going to go ahead and call up Lucas Spielvogel. Did I say that right? Ms. Nealon, while they're coming up, if you go ahead with your comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Bridget Nealon. I'm with the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, and I'm here because Lobby supports Teach for America. We believe they are making a major contribution to education in our state. They're placed in some of the most under-resourced schools and regions in Louisiana, and we know that effective teachers are essential to student success. In addition to education, Teach for America staff and teachers are heavily involved in community engagement, contributing in many ways outside of the classroom. We respect all of Louisiana's dedicated educators, and that includes the Teach for America Corps. I had the honor of knowing many of the Corps members and TFA leaders over the years, actually from the very first Corps in the 90s. Louisiana is better for their presence here, and I urge you to support Teach for America in any and every way possible.
Thank you, Ms. Nealon. Mr. Cleveland.
Good morning. I'm Ben Cleveland, the CEO of New Orleans College Prep. We operate a small network of pre-K to 12th grade charter schools in New Orleans. We've been a partner of Teach for America for 8 years. Pre-Katrina, only 30% of students in public open enrollment high schools actually attended college, and only 10% actually finished college. It's a new day in New Orleans, as you know. Cohen High School, which is one of the traditional open enrollment high schools in New Orleans, is now under our operation. We're graduating our first class of seniors this year, have already achieved 75% college acceptance, over $2 million in merit scholarships, and projecting 90% by the summer. I'm here to testify that Teach for America teachers that work for our school system are a critical part of that success, and we could not have achieved it without them. Drilling down just a bit deeper, in 2013, on the state exams, ILED, and end of course exams, 90% of our Teach for America alumni or Corps members who work for our schools achieved effective or highly effective on the state's value-added metric. That's actually a rate that's 5 points higher than the overall average for our school system. This isn't about just filling jobs, it's about filling jobs with the most effective teachers. And Teach for America has demonstrated a track record in our schools and across the state of bringing those teachers to bear the benefits for our children. So I urge you to support the ongoing relationship and partnership, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Cleveland. Mr. LeBlanc.
Good morning. My name is Antoine LeBlanc. I'm a senior in Scotlandville, Maryland High, and a fellow in the Baton Youth Coalition. And through my high school career, TFA's played an integral part in my success because the best teachers that I've had in my high school have been TFA Corps members. And the Baton Youth Coalition, the program that I'm in, that has guided me through the college process and everything that I would not have been able to do, is run and founded by TFA alum. And I just don't know what I would have been able to do without them and the program, because they have just been so much of a help to me and all the other fellows that are in BRIC. And it's just, we have so many Teach for America alum and volunteer that work with the program. And I am going to be attending Brown next year on 100% financial backing, and I wouldn't have been able to do it BRIC or Teach for America or my college mentor, Lucas Bill Vogel, which is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to be here and give comments.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lucas Spielvogel, and I'm the Executive Director of the Baton Rouge Youth Coalition, or BRIC, that Anton was referring to. This summer, BRIC will have sent 95 students to four-year colleges on what we project to be nearly $6 million in scholarships and financial aid support. We've done some pretty incredible things over the last 5 years, and I say that to say that none of it would have been possible without Teach for America. The program was founded by a Teach for America alum in 2005 and was handed off to me 2 years ago. I'm also a Teach for America alum. I taught 2 years of seventh grade social studies at Baker Middle School. And I'm speaking on behalf of the alumni community. There are many of us out there, and not only are we continuing to carry the torch that we were given the responsibility to carry when we first came to the region, but we are continually supported by the Teach for America program here. So Michael Tipton is a mentor to me. The program continues to furnish my program with supportive mentors, and it's just, I couldn't be more in support of the continuation of your support of Teach for America. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your comments, for being here. We have one more speaker.
I have a comment for Mr. LeBlanc.
Yep, Ms. Buffett.
We're really excited for you. Congratulations and good luck, but we also expect that you come home and use your gifts here in Louisiana.
We have one more speaker, Superintendent Nelson from Concordia Parish.
Good morning. I felt bad when Superintendent Lemoyne was taking all the heat a while ago, so I threw my card in the mix. But I just wanted to say that everything that he said is exactly my experience in Concordia Parish as well. We currently have 10 Teach for America folks in our district, and we're going to bring in another 5 next year. And as you know, as it's already brought up, most of the time they come for 2 years, and the third year they leave. In our case, all 5 of the first group are staying, so we'll actually have 15 in our district next year. And these young people will do a great job for us. They fill in needs that we cannot fill any other way. We're not denying any regular graduates degrees, so to speak, because we can't get those people. My personnel coordinator went to Grambling last week. Sent me a text from a district in Dallas that had $50,000 starting salary. So she asked, could I offer 50? And I said, sure, you want to give them your job, you can give them 50. Because we simply cannot do that. And that's the reason why when we have college graduates in education in Louisiana, we often lose them because people from Florida and Texas are coming in and taking them back home with them because of the money. But I just want to echo Mr. Lemoyne's comments that we think this is a valuable program. It has been a tremendous help to us. We are a rural district. We are a neighbor to Avoyelles, and we would like you to continue to support this program.
Thank you, Superintendent, for your comments. That's the end of the public comments. So I do have 4 cards in support, and I'll read the names of that if they do not wish to comment. Virginia Nolan, a Teach for America board member. Chris Meyer of New Schools for Baton Rouge. Barbara Feinberg, who's representing herself. And Rain Martin with Stand for Children. Okay, any other discussion from the board? Mr. Roman?
Yeah, I'll make it brief. I appreciate Mr. Tipton being here today, and I appreciate what Teach for America does. I don't like that we get into kind of a posture of Teach for America versus traditional pathways. I think we need both, and we need quality from both, and certainly appreciated the job you guys have done, especially in rural districts where they get a bigger challenge. I also don't want this moment to pass without us recognizing some of the other groups that are participating in these 21st century funds. For those of you who may be new on the board, we've worked diligently, the department has and others, the past 7 years to really try to add value to these after school programs. That they use these opportunities to enrich the learning that goes on during the traditional school hours. And so I want to thank those groups that are getting these grants today. familiar with a few of them locally, Big Buddy being one. They do an excellent job here locally, Boys and Girls Club. But we should also recognize that this board is taking a position that we believe these enrichment programs are important and they need to be tied to the efforts of literacy and math that we're doing in our traditional hours. So I don't want this to just be about the Teach for America contract. I want to recognize these other grantees and also school districts who are receiving these grants who have embraced the idea that teaching doesn't end necessarily at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I want to recognize them and appreciate the efforts. And I would ask this board that we continue to pay attention to these programs to make sure that they add value to our traditional hours of study that we already provide in today.
Thank you, Mr. Romer, and the other comments about the other contracts. Well, thank you. Dr. Beebe?
Thank you, Mr. P.I. I want to call attention to the date of services. It's September 2013 through June 2014.
What page are you on, please?
Page 109, and I think the year is almost expired. So here we're asked to approve the contract for services provided. Is that normal protocol? On page 109, it has date of services September 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2014.
They've been conducting activity, but through raising funds associated with their budget over the course of the year. They operate year-round, obviously. So they have been operating activities in Louisiana. This is to fund activities this year. As the legislature appropriated such funds for such purpose, it's a reasonable thing to go ahead and operate this year. However, they have not had access to the funds as of yet because we have not made the contract available.
Okay, but I would certainly recommend in the future Superintendent White that we do things timely, and I think it would have been more beneficial to store or to present information to us at least in August or July of 2013. But with that said, that's a point for you to reflect on. I do have some comments to offer. I can appreciate the challenges of Superintendent Lemoyne and Superintendent Dr. Nelson of Concordia Parish. And certainly as a superintendent and a former personnel director, I know firsthand the challenges that staff these students, particularly with the more recent exodus of teachers. And I certainly will attest that quality teachers drive student success. And we want to ensure that we have quality teachers within the classroom. And in fact, just last year, I made comments, certainly that, you know, as we proceed with reform initiatives that, you know, I might just have to swallow my pride and ask for some Teach for America core members. And I want to say to those who are present, my issue does not lie with the core members. It lies with the $1 million contract and the fact that we have universities in Louisiana who could be innovative. They could recruit the talent that we have within Louisiana. And again, I just want to reiterate that I know that teaching is a challenging profession, and I have witnessed several Teach for America teachers hired in other districts, and they were phenomenal. My concern again is not specific to the TFA core members. However, I have to make this exception. I believe in certification. It is a standard. It's a norm. My issue, again, I must say, is, you know, we often tout that these individuals are highly qualified. They can positively impact student outcomes. But I do know beyond the intellect, there are some issues that our certified teachers, even coming out of universities, with classroom management issues, and I do recognize that many of these individuals who lack that traditional college experience, going through the student teaching and so forth, they do have challenges. But again, I want to close by saying it's a sad day in Louisiana when it appears that we have the groups who come and support, like I recall last meeting when we heard from the charter groups and they were touting their success. You know, we're in this business about for the sole purpose of educating children, but yet we're having the conversations that hit us against the other, and it is indeed unfortunate. But I hope that we get to the point where we can be civil and we can increase those student outcomes by having the dialogue. And I think it starts with leadership. I think it starts with our state superintendent of education. And again, to attend a legislative session last week, to hear him say, in essence, paraphrasing, credentials and certifications don't matter. I take issue with that, but I do applaud those in the classroom, whether they are traditionally certified or they go through the TFA experience. My issue lies with $1 million paying for a service that we can do ourselves with the initiative.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I want to just to state for the record the dangers of paraphrasing when the one being paraphrased is present. You have gotten my comment wrong. My comment was that we all are at that hearing, and I know you were as well, Dr. Beebe, in order to find a way of ensuring that schools have the best teachers possible. There are two different ways of doing it. I didn't say one way was better than the other. One way is to say the government should create a bunch of rules dictating who gets in the classroom. The other way is to say the principal should be able to make the determination. I didn't say one way was better than the other. I simply said it seems to be working in the charter schools, so I asked the committee to allow them to continue to do it. And by the way, they supported that approach. So I did not say what you said that I said. I wouldn't have.
Well, it's perception, sir.
Well, it's not. That's not what paraphrasing is about. Paraphrasing is supposed to be about words and what they mean, and that's what my words mean.
Well, that was what I took away.
Thank you.
Ms. Hill?
Yes, I have a couple of questions for Mr. Tipton.
Mr. Chairman, if we could call the vote after this, because we've had pretty substantial, after Ms. Hill finishes, if we can move on, that would be great. We've had a pretty thorough discussion.
Ms. Hill, please keep.
Mr. Tipton, I had the opportunity to listen to the testimonies, and one of the two things that stood out to me was you guys, most of the TFA teachers are in low economic status environments and working with at-risk children. So my question to you is, because of the rigorous understanding special education and classroom management, what is TFA doing? Because what I've experienced and have seen, most of the TFA teachers academically can really help our children progress. But when it comes to classroom management skills, that's where they lacked in disciplining the children, understanding different behaviors and things of that nature. So what is TFA doing to assure, because what I'm seeing in some of my schools that are in the recovery school district with the suspensions and expulsions is that a lot of those teachers that are working with RSD, most of them are TFA teachers, but they're having a challenge with the classroom management and giving them the special education needs, whether a child with ADHD, etc. They don't have the skills. Academically they have it, but they don't have the skills to actually those children. So what is TFA doing to ensure?
That's what I'm doing against. See, all these comments.
Thank you for the question, Mike.
So,
quick thoughts. We ask principals how they feel about exactly that, as well as we do a survey every other year across the country. 90% plus of our principal partners say our teachers on management, on classroom performance, are at least as good as, if not stronger than, other teachers that they would hire. So we continue to see that result. But to specifically answer your question in terms of what we do around classroom management,
Our Summer Institute is a real teaching experience with a master teacher in the back of the classroom, where they're teaching a lesson with a master teacher watching them and getting to have real-time practice where they are able to be pulled out and said, you know, this part that you did as part of your management plan worked really well. This part, not so good, you need to get better. And providing that real-time ongoing support. Throughout their 2-year commitment, our teacher coaches are there to provide supplementary support on top of what schools and districts already provide to new teachers. One of the more recent innovations, it's being used across the country, is called real-time coaching. Picture a Secret Service earpiece that goes in their ear with a walkie-talkie. It's something that's been used across the country to help train new teachers, and we've spent some time and energy practicing that. So for the folks who really do need some additional training and support, somebody can sit in the back of the room and be able to provide direct coaching to help them learn the nuances and skills to be a good classroom manager. We don't have to do that terribly frequently, but it's an additional resource and support we can provide to the schools and the teachers to help them get up that learning. I think as most principals would say, your first year teaching is something that's a learning experience and a challenge. So we want to help our folks accelerate up that learning curve.
That's what he said.
I've got one more. Ms. Bradford, did you have a comment? Then we're going to go ahead and vote.
I just wanted to reiterate, I enjoyed the statistics that Mr. Garvey gave, and I just wanted to know, it seems to me that our TFA teachers stay longer in our state than the national average that we always hear about. I just wanted to hear you reiterate that, if you would.
I'd be happy to. We see that somewhere between 60 and 70% of our Teach for America Corps members, once they come to Louisiana, stay in Louisiana. About 60 to 70%, depending on the year, stay in education as teachers, and then work their way up over time to become deans of students, curriculum coaches, master teachers, staying in the classroom. Some become principals. Some get into other arenas as well.
And also, I just like Mr. Cleveland's comment that it's not about just filling the jobs, it's about filling the jobs with the best teachers. And then Mr. LeBlanc made the comment that his best teachers have been TFA teachers. That's not to say we don't have great teachers in Louisiana. We do, but I have to agree that I'm in favor of this because of the fact that we do need all of these jobs. And being from a rural parish, I know that TFA, though they didn't service always up there, and so the areas that we cover, they are so vital and necessary. And so I am in favor of this.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and vote on the motion. Is there any objection to the motion?
Object.
Ms. Smith objects, and Dr. Beebe objects, and Ms. Hill objects. Motion carries. Next item. Okay, and Ms. Orange Jones recuses herself.
I'm going to recuse myself.
So Mr. Lee recuses himself. Could we have let's go ahead and have a roll call vote. So we know what we have here.
Okay. Dr. Beebe?
Object.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong sheet. Dr. Beebe objects, says no. Ms. Bovee?
Yes.
Ms. Bovee votes yes. Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
Ms. Bradford votes yes. Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey votes yes. Ms. Hill?
Object.
Ms. Hill votes no. Mr. Lee?
Abstain.
Lee abstains. Dr. Morante?
Yes.
Dr. Morante votes yes. Ms. Orange Jones? I'm sorry. Ms. Orange Jones recuse. Mr. Romer?
Yes.
Mr. Romer votes yes. Ms. Smith?
No.
Ms. Smith votes no. Dr. Gill, Mr. Gill, would you like to vote?
Yes.
Gill votes yes. Motion passed.
I want to make sure we understood what we were voting on there. I mean, we were voting on more than one item. And I want members to realize what you just did. Okay? Everything you just voted on were grants being sent either to school districts or other after-school providers. Okay? So you need to be careful about what you're doing when you cast your vote. And I'm appalled by the no votes because they make no sense. And by the way, had you won, every single person in here would have been turned down.
Whose fault is that, Mr. Rhodes?
Well, I think it's yours because you didn't know what you were doing.
You should have separated. I knew what I
No,
was
you should have separated.
Order. Let's move to the next item.
Next item
It's on page 111, item 5.2, consideration of RSD contracts and leases of $50,000 and over. The recommendation is to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Garvin?
Second.
Second by Ms. Buckley. We do have comment cards on 5.2. How do we know? Okay, I'm gonna call these the comment cards on 5.2. If it's related to TFA, what I'm gonna ask is, unless your comments are different than what they've been, is to pass on comment. So we have Lee Barrios.
Mr. Chairman, would you mind if I just, okay, so in light of that discussion, why don't I just reiterate what this item is?
Thanks.
This item is all contracts, as it is every month, all contracts that the Recovery School District has proposed for your approval. That includes predominantly contracts associated with capital projects in New Orleans as part of the FEMA funded recovery of the school facilities in New Orleans. Now, let me create an additional reminder. You are going to see items here that are very similar to what Superintendent Lemoyne would bring, or the superintendents in your home parishes, Superintendent Nelson would bring. You are acting, in effect, as the school board for the Recovery School District. That's why you're going to have such a wide variety of items on here. And you're going to even have an item that includes Teach for America. Teach for America is a contractor with that school system, as it is with the Concordia Parish School System, as it is with the Avoyelles Parish School System, and others. And you are now essentially acting as the school board for this school district. And that's why you see a large array of contracts, including one that's for Teach for America. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Steve. Barrios.
Lee Barrios, retired teacher, St. Tammany. I am going to speak to the Teach for America grant again. There's a grant to amend the original $1,202,500 grant to Teach for America by adding $250,000. I'm not quite sure I'm understanding, Mr. White, your comment about that, quote, the legislature has earmarked money for TFA. But in fact, in 2010, I wrote Mr. Tipton and said I would appreciate information from you regarding your NGO request from the state of Louisiana for the years 2009 and 10. And he replied back, because they had an NGO for almost $1 million. He said the NGO request system is a bit misleading. And in fact, it is. Teach for America didn't directly request funding through the legislature, but rather the Department of Education and other departments have made requests to fund Teach for America as part of their strategic priorities and work in a number of high-needs areas of the state. In both 2009 and 10 years, we did receive funding for this process, but not the amount originally requested, which I believe was $5 million in the NGO. In both years, Teach for America was allocated $968,468 on a contract basis through the Department of Education. The contract's performance standards and outcomes should be available through the department. So the funding is still a question as far as I'm concerned, but I'm going to look further into that. Mr. Darby, I'm not quite sure why you are sort of trying to stir the pot. We all know that nobody's against these teachers in principle, but my problem is in the part of the process of deprofessionalizing the teaching profession, and they're doing that nationally. They have far extended their need in many areas and are replacing certified teachers. I'm going to get you the real stats on attrition on a national and a state basis for these Teach for America teachers. I'll provide that with documentation for you. It is true that Teach for America teachers do often stay in the profession of teaching to serve as principals and even in some cases state superintendents. But that does not mean that they are any more qualified for the positions they hold as certified teachers. And I still have a problem with our own certified teachers and students coming out of the universities
not being recruited. If we spent that much money on recruiting and mentoring these teachers, we wouldn't need Teach for America. Thank you.
The next group, I want to ask if you, now she has something different to not comment, is Mr. Grimes, Mr. Meekins, Nicole Grimes, excuse me, Ms. Grimes, Mr. Meekins, Mr. Tipton, and Mr. Jesse. Any other testimony than what you had? You willing to pass? Okay, thank you. We also have several cards here, 4 cards that I'll read for recommendation, but do not wish to speak. Recommendation to support Stephanie DeSalle, Chris Meyer, Dwayne Lamone, and Catherine Posiak. Okay, any discussion from the board on this item?
If I'm in order, Mr. Guion, I would like to pull the Teach for America page from consideration so that we can have the vote that we can handle it separately. I'll put it in the motion, and Ms. Hill, second.
Okay, so we have a motion. So we have a motion on the floor now, right? So do we have to take this as a substitute motion?
You can pull that item out
Okay.
and make the motion after you vote on all the others.
Okay, what item is that, Dr. Judy?
The Teach for America contract.
Page 120, the Teach for America contract.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's amend the original motion. Who made the original motion?
Mr. Garvey?
Mr. Garvey, would you amend that motion to pull the Teach for America contract?
Yes.
Okay, who seconded it?
Ms. Bophy?
Ms. Bophy, would you agree to that? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve all items but the Teach for America item on this 5.2 section. Is there any objection to that motion? Okay, that passes. Okay, so now we'll address the Teach for America piece.
Okay, so now I'm looking at this request, and it's to fund 25 first-year teachers, and it's amendment to the contract of 1.2 million. So technically, that's 250,000 per 25 teachers. And the board just approved a contract for $1 million contract for 520 teachers. So it kind of seems like some
Dr. Beebe, we need a motion on the floor to discuss the item. So are you making a motion on the Teach for America piece item?
No, to approve it. You're gonna vote on it separate to pass it, to approve it, because it's really up.
Do I have a motion for approval of this item so we can discuss it?
That's what you need.
I'll move that we approve this item.
Ms. Bophy, do I have a second? Second to approve the item?
What's that?
The Teach for America item under the RSD contract. Okay, Mr. Romer. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we can now discuss. Dr. Beebe.
Well, I was just pointing out that to me it's a considerable dollar amount in an amendment, 250,000 to train and recruit 25 teachers, when one considers we just approved, the board just approved $1 million for 520 teachers.
Well, in part, that's why I delineated your 2 different roles at the outset of what I said. I said that you are, in the first, you are enacting a contract on behalf of the state agency, and the state's budget has allocated funds for that purpose, appropriated funds. This is different. You are acting here as the school system's board, and as with Superintendent Nelson, as with Superintendent Lemoyne, we as the school system, the local school system, are coming to you asking for your approval of an allocation no different from the St. Martin Parish or the Concordia or the Avoyelles Parish work. And so what the line of questioning that Superintendent Lemoyne endured was, so you've entered into a contract, and he said, yes, this is the exact same question. This is a local function, in this case for Baton Rouge. The state running many of the schools in Baton Rouge is coming saying, for local purposes, we are seeking funds to do this as well.
I fully understand, Mr. White. I'm just saying, again, the dollar amount and the number of teachers, I think it's a bit, so,
Understood.
Any further discussion on this item? Any objection to the motion?
I object.
Dr. Beebe and Ms. Hill objects. Next item.
On page 170, item 6.1, consideration of HG funding cycle activities, HG competitive grant program awards for FY 2014-2015. The recommendation is to approve.
Do I have a motion to that effect? Okay, let me, this is, okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Bradford. Motion, okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Bophy? Who, would anyone, we have, you know, I'm going to ask Kim to just give a brief overview of this. I'm sorry, what, Ms.? On the last item? Okay.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bophy, would you like to comment first? You would like Kim to give an overview of the process?
So I'll make a few remarks, and then we can turn it over to them for anything that I missed.
Okay.
So this is something that we worked on beginning last year. The board approved the competitive grants process. We hired readers to blindly read these proposals. The readers then brought the information back to that information was then collected by our staff. We have a work group that consisted of myself, Ms. Hill, Ms. Bradford, and Mr. Romer all came together to consider the recommendations. One of the points that I made to the staff is that I felt like they should take that information from the readers and help us come up with the proposal, because one of the main features of this process is that the proposals match our strategic plan, and so that was the intent from the beginning. When the work group met to hear this proposal, we still did not know who had come out in the top from the readers and the staff recommendation. We sat down as a work group, met here in Baton Rouge, sat down together as a work group, looked through the proposals. We had a lot of proposals. It far exceeded, I think it was $79 million worth of proposals. No.
79 proposals.
79 proposals. How much million? $30 million worth of proposals and 79 different ones. And so we had a task to consider how we allocate this, the money that we actually had dedicated to this amount in a way that honors the proposals, but also make sure that we fund as many as we possibly could. And so we have this, the recommended ones here for you. They include a proposal to the Lafourche Parish School Board on expanding career choices for students. This is one where they were going to increase the classes for the electrical industry-based certification. And so this is something that we have proposed. There's another one to the Department of Education to expand the Jump Start program to more parishes. Another one by Rapides Parish School Board, and this is for a lift off to elevated reading. So this is going to serve 348 students. St. Charles Parish School Board is a pre-K summer camp. St. Charles had another one, which is a math intervention at the middle school. And then the last one on here is West Baton Rouge Parish, and that is an initiative where the district is going to purchase some computers and use an assessment system to identify where their students' weaknesses are. They're going to go back and remediate there. So I thought that it was a nice variety. I know we don't have a whole lot of money that we can allocate, but I thought that we had a nice variety both in terms of where these are coming from and the types of projects that our districts want to undergo. I'm really excited about the thoughtfulness that went into these proposals and the fact that our districts are really identifying those kinds of things that they would support with extra dollars. So I think if anybody else on the work group would like to add information before we turn it over to staff.
Yeah. Thank you, Holly. I'm one of the work group members, and I participated in the actual process in regards to approving the grant. But one of the things that I would like to say is that when we were given the information, we went in blind, not knowing what grantees were part of the proposal. So I thought that was a good approach. We had so many applicants, as the call stated, 79 applications for $30 million, but we only had $1.7 billion to actually allocate to throughout the whole process. But what I did like about the process, because I did participate, it was very transparent. And I want to thank the AG team for your hard work and dedication, because I know you guys worked long hours. It was a challenge because we wanted to grade everybody. We really did, honestly, we really did. But we couldn't, so we had to sit down and we had to identify what was priority versus, what was not priority, to make sure that we were able to make sure our children receive what they need along the district. So I was pleased with the process, what I participated in, and I think it was a very transparent process.
Any other comments? Dr. Beebe?
Ms. Bovee, in your opening remarks, I understood you to say that there was a rating system, that there were readers, and there was a rating system. Did you apply those points in the award? In fact, there were 79 grant proposals, and in the grant award, did you take into consideration the top ranked proposals, or did you use other criteria to base the award?
So are you asking about the dollar amount for the awards, or the awards that were selected?
No, the proposals selected by the committee. As I understood from your opening comments, you indicated there were readers who assigned scores.
Exactly. So based on the scores from those readers, and let me know if I'm misunderstanding you, but based on the scores for the readers, that was like the first gate to figure out the spectrum of where the different proposals fail. And then based on that spectrum, the staff was able to help us narrow the field down even further. From the 79, they narrowed it down, and then it was narrowed down even more. So when the work group met, we looked at 8 proposals total, and of those 8 proposals, we didn't look at the readers' scores, and we didn't look at the names. We just took these, what we were considering the top proposals, and from those top proposals, figuring out how we can make this little bit of money go as far as possible. So it was really a tough.
Well, I'm not finished, Ms. Brad. Well, please let me while I have it here. So what you're saying to me, in the ratings, you did not use those to determine these the outcomes, if you will. So you applied other criteria. So in other words, you said you had staff assist you. So in essence, if the proposals are rated with X points up through the top 6, these should be the proposals receiving the highest ratings. Am I correct?
So if that's the process that the work group would have agreed to from the beginning, then we certainly could have gone that way.
You did not allow those 79 participants, those who submitted the proposals, did you inform them of the criteria to be applied?
We'll have to ask the staff what communication went out to the...
There was a rubric based on this is what we expect in the proposal, but to say the criteria or criterion used to award the
initial reading, the ratings. Yes, the ratings. Ms. Bradford, yes. Do you remember?
Well, when the top 8 are the top 8 that came in. Then from there we looked back on what were criteria, such as did it go with one of our main goals? Is it what we're trying to achieve? Is it? And those then were ones that we looked at that we could fund, that we had the money. And we also, which probably this wasn't on the criteria, but we tried to look at spreading it across different grade levels so that it didn't all go to one area, but rather went to different areas that we had cited as our goals for these grants. So it didn't depart from it totally, But once we got that 8, we did go back and look at them based on those, not so much on the ratings. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make sense, because when you're in a competition, it's like, okay.
But at different stages of the competition.
Well, whose goals? You said it was our
the
goal.
BESE goals.
It was our goal.
The BESE goals, the BESE, whether,
So in other words, those who
our strategic
participated,
plan.
those who submitted proposals, were they directed to focus on BESE's goals? Were they
Yes. Am I correct on that? Yes, they were.
I would just like to have a rating of the proposals. I'm requesting it as a BESE member, and certainly, my comments.
On all of them?
Yes.
Yes. You want us to
Yes. And it's, certainly, I have no objection to those who receive the awards. I just want to make sure that transparency is evident and that we did this the right way.
Well, I think, just for clarification, when we, as the work group committee, what was explained to us in regards to the process is that they had 2 sets of readers. Correct me if I'm wrong. They had 2 sets of readers, where 3 of them, they had 6 readers. They had 2 sets. So one group read and they rated, and then another group read and they had ratings. And then we combined the 2 scores and got an average. So once you receive the average score, that those 8 came to the work group. Now, when we met as a group, we took upon what the team worked on, the top 8 that they gave us, and then as a work group, we decided what was best fit for what the actual criteria was in regards to what BESE planned as far as the strategic plan. So when we looked at each category and each proposal, trust me, it was hard for us. I mean, I can truly say that it was hard because we wanted to get everybody. But we had to narrow it down because we had some that was presented to us that had the same service, had the duplicate of the same proposal. So we had to narrow it down and say, okay, well, this proposal, even though it's saying the same thing, but we had to identify what the needs were, what was integrated. So that's how we were able to narrow it down.
Mr. Romer?
Well, I think Ms. Hill cleared it up a decent amount. I would say, we were presented with 8 finalists based on their score. We did see the score of the 8 finalists, and they were all within, a point or so of each other. They 5 to 8 spots. We did try to look at the dollars amount we had, what were the grant amounts, and the number of people served. There were a few that were very similar, so we decided unfortunately, because they were so similar, we should probably choose one of the 2 versus both of those and give something not as similar. So it was a discussion, but what we were presented were based on the scores from the readers. And we then looked at those 8 finalists and said, what's the best allocation of these dollars given what our goals as a board have been articulated? For instance, or the state has articulated. For instance, Jumpstart. Jumpstart is a program that's been supported widely by a variety of different constituents across the state. We felt like that was a priority for our state, and it would be important for us to support that priority. So we chose that out of the group. You could go back and forth. I guess you could look at all 79 scores, but what the work group presented was the top 8 scores to choose from. And we decided to narrow it to these 6 because in a couple instances there was some overlap. And each of the recipients, I think I'm correct, maybe the 35,000, I don't know that did anybody get all of what they requested? Can't remember. Okay, so we're dealing with people that were asking for grants where the dollar amount was more than what we could provide. And so we wanted to see, well, if we had to lower the dollar amount, which programs would still be effective at a lower dollar amount. Some proposals, for instance, I'm going to make up a number just to be illustrative, were for $120,000, and we found out if we lowered them to $80,000, they couldn't do their program. So we had to measure what was the impact of lowering the amount. So there was 4 or 5 different things that were considered by the work group. Geographic region was considered, area in terms of what grade levels they were supporting.
Mr. Romer, we didn't know the geographic region.
We didn't know the geographic region, I can't remember. What grades they supported, how much a lower amount would impact them. So there was a variety of things that were considered, and I think we reached consensus on these 6. I don't think there was after discussion. So anyway, that was the background.
Mr. Gio.
Mr. Lee and then you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Lee.
I think we're seeing lots of concern, really, about how we award competitive grants. Am I correct in that previously we had 50% that was block grant to local school systems and 50% that went what was called statewide? And we reduced the 50% block grant to local districts in order to make these funds available. Is that accurate?
Mr. Lee, the board previously allocated $10.2 million to the block grant program and then allocated another $10.2 to what we call the statewide program, and then have set $1.7 million into the competitive program, and then have another $1 million set aside for special projects. So competitive program aside, just from block and the statewide, they are both receiving the same amount. And then if you add in the competitive allocations within that, never mind that all of the competitive grant funds, if these proposals are approved, would be flow-through dollars or direct grants to schools. If you add in the competitive of all the grantees between block, statewide, and competitive, slightly more than half would actually be going to local agencies, either districts, charters, or independent schools.
I'm having difficulty understanding in simple terms. I do know at one time it was 50-50. Is that accurate?
As far as I understand, previously the board had allocated 50-50 when there wasn't a competitive. With this competitive program, and if these proposals are approved, slightly more than 50% will be going to locals.
Yeah, I think
that's not the question.
Okay.
Previously it was, ask this lady. Previously it was 50% block grant to local school systems. Is that accurate?
That's it.
And 50% to statewide projects.
That's accurate.
The 50% that was distributed block grant to local school systems was reduced. Is that accurate? It's no longer 50% of the 8G money.
It's a little bit less than 50%.
Right, like 42%.
Correct.
And that's essentially what makes up this fund?
Well, what happened was in the budgeting for last fiscal year, the department received 12.2%. I'm sorry, 12.2 million, and the block was 10.2.
Okay, I'm trying to keep it in percentages now.
Do you have the net difference that the school systems had on block versus what they had last year to this year?
From block last year to block this year, I think it's a couple $100,000.
Yes, if you're speaking percentage.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. I'm of the impression that the allocation for block grants to local school systems that was 50% primarily was used for early childhood education.
That is a fair thing to say. But for this year, block and statewide are receiving the same amount. So they're both, block is receiving 10.2 million, statewide is receiving 10.2 million.
But they're reduced in order to allow for this fund.
So in 13-14, the percentage of block was 43.7%. And this year it's going to be 42.5%. So yes, it is reduced, but then our,
Right. So my whole
what was allocated last year.
my whole point is when we move from 50% block grant to local school systems and set up competitive funds, it makes it difficult to feel that it's, everybody's getting a share.
Ms. Puffy?
Well, I don't disagree with Mr. Lee that this work isn't difficult. I agree that it's definitely difficult, but I do disagree that he says that there's lots of concern here. And I think that this board should discuss Ms. Beebe's request to have the scores for all of the proposals, because I think that we have to consider the integrity of the competitive process that I think should continue on, and that we have to realize that Ms. Beebe is a board member and serves in that capacity, but in this particular instance, she's also serving as a grant. She also sent in a grant proposal. So those things need to be taken into consideration and how we're going to maintain integrity of the competitive process moving forward. And it's just something that I think the board needs to discuss before we start turning over everyone's proposals.
May I respond, Mr. Gill? Okay, I'm not asking for the person who submitted. I simply want to have the ratings, and I think that's a fair request. And certainly St. Martin Parish did submit an application, and should be considered fairly and equitably with all other proposals. This is not about sour grapes. It's about a transparent process. No one said, well, if there's a duplication of a proposal, that it'll be thrown out. My concern is the criteria should be established at the beginning, and everyone should know that if they submit a duplicated proposal, it may just be recorded. And I think it's a fair request.
I'm going to allow one more comment for Ms. Bradford.
So Kim, would you please remind us, if we had just taken the first projects, funded them in full, how many could we have supported? 2.
I mean, did you say
That's
2?
still not my issue. It's the top rated proposal, as I see it.
Different levels, including different rationale comes into play.
That should have been established.
I think it was still based on the criterion that the grants were written on, but we tried to spread out the money by helping to reduce some of the amounts of money that were requested. So as to be more
trying to have competitive.
then we would have, had we not just finally said.
Let's go ahead and vote on the item. Are there any objection to the motion? Motion carries. I want to personally thank the work group. This is tough work. It's tough to be equitable. I think the group, I think there was good communication ahead of time. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. I would ask, Sophia, did you chair the group?
I don't think I was an official chair, but I'm certainly opinionated.
Yeah, I think just kind of a lessons learned from the group, and come back to the board with a recommendation about what would you do differently. I think would be worthwhile if we could do that. Okay, thank you. Next item.
On page 178, item 6.2, consideration of HG funding cycle activities, approval of HG statewide programs for FY 2014-2015, international choices for college and career education. The recommendation is to approve.
Is there any objection to me taking 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, and 6.5 in one motion? They're all statewide HG.
They are.
Programs.
They are.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Romer, second, Ms. Smith. Okay, so are there any board comments on any of those items, 6.2 through 6.5? Ms. Hill?
On 6.5, the early childhood care education network expansion, I have a question for Superintendent White. What are the monitoring process checks and balances to ensure that the network teams are implementing the agendas that are being necessary. So what are we doing, these network teams? What, I guess, check and balances or monitoring process we're doing from the department standpoint to ensure that the network teams are rendering the services that they are supposed to based on the contract? Because I've been receiving different feedback that some of them are not communicating with some of the providers, they're not doing the training with some of the providers, they're not reaching out to some of the providers. So what are we doing to ensure that the network teams are doing what they are supposed to do?
Talking about the network pilots,
Yes.
we have established goals, measures for each one. We have one of our network team deputies at the department is assigned to every network pilot. And based on that monitoring, we make adjustments. If there is any sense that a pilot is not doing what's needed to be done, the network deputy is right there working with the pilot network and to make sure that that changes. And if there's any instances in which you think something's not being done appropriately, I'd ask that you please send me that evidence and we'll be happy to.
Well, I would like to add, maybe we should have a component in there where we allow the providers to evaluate the actual network team providers, because this is what they're saying. So they would tell us that they're doing it, and then, they may not be doing it. Rendering the services. So I think that we should look into allowing the providers to evaluate the network team as a check and balance to ensure that they're doing. So I would like to make that recommendation.
That's an excellent idea. Bridget, if we could take that down and we'll circle back with you. Ms. Hill, thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Hill. Any other discussion on these items? Any objection to the motion? Motion carries. Next item.
On page 217, item 8.1, consideration of procedure for board and committee meetings added to the agenda by Ms. Smith. The recommendation is to receive.
Do I have a motion to receive? Ms. Hill, second by Ms. Bradford. Ms. Smith, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before I begin this, I should have done this a few minutes ago, but I was so in shock, so I'm kind of got myself collected here. But I really would like to just make a point that I think that we're going to disagree on issues from time to time. I've been in the legislature for 12 years. I didn't vote the same way with everybody every time. But I think we ought to display a professional courtesy when we're here. It's still America the last time I checked. I'm not going to throw a temper tantrum if somebody doesn't vote the way I want them to. There may be reasons that need to be explained, but I would just like to say I am the new kid on the block, but I would like to see us use professional courtesy when we address our colleagues. And having said that, I apologize that I was not at the last special called meeting on the MFP. But I did go back and review the archives, and I do know that there were situations that I think we could have handled better. And I say we because I'm a part of this board. But what I'm asking us to do is, and basically is what I'm asking the staff to do, is come up with a written policy that deals with how we handle non-technical amendments so that there's time for the members of the board, the general public, and the media to have time to look at a written copy, not something written on a napkin, not something that you continue to talk about, but something that can be looked at. And I think we can do this. We ended up having to do this in the legislature because we had the same kind of problems taking place where people would just come in with an amendment and there was debate over whether it was technical or non-technical. And I know that we will always have this. I'm not talking about grammatical errors or typographical errors. I'm talking about amendments or motions that are of a technical nature so that everybody needs to fully understand the motion. And so with that, I'm asking that I don't want an unwritten policy. I would like for us to establish, have the staff come back in June with a policy or procedure that we can look at. And if we have to recess for 5 minutes to make copies for the members to see, hey, I'm in for that. So that's my motion. That way, there won't be any misunderstanding about what we voted on, what the motion was, and I think that it would serve us all better. That's my motion.
Point well taken. Any further discussion on the item?
Yes,
Dr.
and I want to thank Ms. Smith for making this proposal, because as I communicated during the last meeting, y'all have different learning styles, and my head was spinning. In fact, I had to reach out to BESE staff after leaving the meeting to find out what the board actually approved. I didn't vote for it, but nevertheless, I needed clarification because it was just done quickly, and I had no understanding of what was presented. So thank you for coming.
Any objection to the motion? Motion carries.
Right now, the motion is to receive, so if you want to make a motion to direct
My
staff.
question is, the motion is to receive.
Yes, you can make a second.
If she wants to make a
Let's make a
separate motion.
another motion. Ms. Smith, would you make a
Direct
motion for the staff to come back with a recommendation?
Sure. I move that we ask the staff to come back to the June meeting with a recommendation for policy and procedures for the handling of motions and an amendment that are non-technical, that are technical in nature.
Second. Ms. Hill, any objection to that motion? Motion carries. That concludes the business of admin and finance. The next meeting is now scheduled at 1 o'clock. Okay, it'll start at 1 o'clock.